1, 2, 3, ready.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen. Wassalatu wassalamu ala Rasulillah wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa sallam tasliman kathiran amma ba'du. In last week's class, we were discussing al-khula'. We're making a continuation from what we started before on some of the basic rules of al-ishra, the treatment of one's spouse, and a woman's treatment of her spouse, of her husband, yani mutual treatment. The basic etiquettes between the man and the woman, how they should live together. And how if things go bad or if things go sour, the ways of solving or rectifying or fixing any problems that they may have between each other. And then if a woman chooses to leave her husband, she feels that she's being harmed and she cannot remain with him, whether it's a religious reason, whether it's something pertaining to his physical character, his physical makeup, anything in which will cause her severe harm, and she'll be disobedient to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and she will not be able to establish Allah's hudud, then it is the process of her seeking divorce from him, or her seeking him to divorce her. Al-Muhim, the khula' and the talaq, the difference between the two is that the khula' is the woman being displeased with her husband, and secondly, that is something that is paid. Something that she offers in order for him to divorce her. So therefore we explained this in brief, and that a woman is allowed, according to the author Ibn Sa'di rahimahullah, to give a little or a lot, to give more of what he gave her for a dowry or less. And we said that there's difference of opinion among the ulama, among the people of the past, the scholars of the past, with regards to, is it permissible for him to take more than what he gave her for a dowry? And we also mentioned some of the wisdoms behind this. Now, bi'idhnillah azza wa jalla, we move on to the next subchapter of divorce, in which the author says, Kitab At-Talaq. He says, the book of At-Talaq. Ibn Sa'di rahimahullah ta'ala says, وَالْأَصْلُ فِيهِ قَوْلُهُ تَعَالَى يَا أَيُّهَا النَّبِيُّ إِذَا طَلَّقْتُمُ النِّسَاءَ فَطَلِّقُوهُنَّ لِعِدَّتِهِنَّ الْآيَةِ وَغَيْرُهَا مِنْ نُصُوصِ الْكِتَابِ وَالسُّنَّةِ. He says that the original proof of the basic foundation of the permissibility or of the legality that it is legislated act to divorce, as what Allah Azza wa Jalla says in the Quran, O Prophet, if you intend to divorce your women, then divorce them at their appointed terms or their appointed times. Yani for or doing, not doing, but yani at the proper iddah, So therefore, among the fuqaha, they have adillah, they have proofs and evidences. And they have several proofs and evidences, some from the Quran, some from the Sunnah, some from Ijma', according to some schools of thought, different statements of the Sahaba, according to the school of thought that considers the statement of a companion to be a proof. Okay? But we have that which is called al-asl, the original ruling, the most basic ruling. Okay? So Ibn Sa'di, he quotes the verse from Surah At-Talaq, in which Allah Azza wa Jalla clearly addresses the Prophet ﷺ and instructs him that when he wishes to pronounce divorce, to do it in a specific manner, a certain manner, and not to just divorce in any type of fashion, but a specific fashion. Okay, and that fashion is based off of the iddah of those women. He says, and there are other texts from the book and from the Sunnah. In other words, other verses in the Quran, such as Surah Al-Baqarah, Surah Al-Nisa, and many other chapters in the Quran in which Allah Azza wa Jalla speaks about At-Talaq. As for the ahadith of the Prophet ﷺ, then they are many, in which companions came to him, men and women. They had problems, they had discord, they had disagreements, and they instructed them to do specific things with regards to talaq. So therefore, At-Talaq, as the scholars explain, all 5 rulings of the Sharia apply to talaq. All al-ahkam al-khamsa, the 5 rulings. Sometimes talaq is wajib. Sometimes talaq is mustahab, recommended. Sometimes talaq is mubah, unprescribed. There's no specific ruling pertaining to it. Okay? Sometimes talaq is haram, and sometimes talaq is disliked. Okay? So the 5 basic rulings of the Sharia, we have al-wajib, wal-mustahab, wal-mubah, wal-makruh, wal-muharram, wal-muharram, wal-makruh. That which is obligatory, that which is recommended, that which is unprescribed, that which is impermissible, and that which is disliked. As for divorce, when it's wajib, when is divorce obligatory? We say that a divorce is obligatory in a few instances. And from those instances in which that was just called al-ila, in which a man he swears by Allah Azza wa Jalla that he will not have any intimacy with his wife. He makes an oath, he vows to Allah Azza wa Jalla that he will not be intimate with her, he will not sleep with her. So therefore there's a process that is made, an amount of time that he is given. If he does not go back to being intimate with her, then he either will have to divorce her, it's wajib, or he will go to her and pay an expiation, so on and so forth, which will be explained later on, the concept of that type of divorce called al-ila. What we want right here is that an example or a type of obligatory divorce is when a man does this process. As for when divorce is recommended, then we say, let's say when there's no harmony between the man and the woman whatsoever. He doesn't get anything from the marriage. She doesn't get anything from the marriage. They're always fighting, they're always arguing, they're always going at each other's necks or each other's throats, and there's nothing but malice. There's nothing but hard feelings. There's nothing but agony and grief. Okay? It's always an ill state between the man and the woman. He's providing for her and gets nothing from that. She's being provided for, she has no feelings or no type of love or no type of benefit from him besides that basic material provision. So this is an example that some scholars mention which is recommended for a husband to divorce his wife because it's pointless. It's a pointless marriage. Okay? The goals and the objectives, let alone the fruits of the marriage, are totally void. They're absent, they're not there, so therefore it can be recommended. Or, as Imam Ahmad rahimahullah and others said, let's say if a man is living with a woman and it appears that the woman is not chaste. He doesn't have certainty that she's unchaste. He's not sure, but it's something that's doubtful. Okay, it's something that's doubtful. He says, Yambaghi. He says it's necessary for him to divorce her because if he fears that she's unchaste, she can bring some harm to him. Okay, she can bring to him a child that's not from him. It's not from his stock. Okay, it's not from his lineage. And that's a harm. That's harmful. And the list goes on, other examples in which it could be recommended for a man to divorce his wife. As for when divorce is mubah, unprescribed, and which is no direct ruling for it, it's not obligatory, nor is it haram, it's not recommended, nor is it disliked, it's something that's permissible for you to do, and which there's no major reason behind it, but a man just doesn't want to be with a woman. Okay, he just doesn't feel inclined towards her, he doesn't feel attracted, or he doesn't feel affectionate with her, or he doesn't feel like it's a benefit for him. He's not harming her, he's not abusing her, she's not harming or abusing him, and he divorces her kindly, and he lets her go with peace. Okay? An example in which divorce is haram is that which we call At-Talaq al-Bid'ah. As when a man divorces his wife, a divorce that's based off of innovation, and is not the divorce that's based off of the sunnah, and that will be explained later on. What is divorce of bid'ah? Okay? What does that term mean? What does it entail? And there's different descriptions of talaq al-bid'ah. Now, does talaq al-bid'ah count? Is it valid? Is it invalid? That's a separate issue. What is important is that it is haram. Okay? That it is impermissible for a man to divorce his wife according to bid'ah. Okay? But does it count? That's the different issue of khilaf from ulama. We're not going to explain at this point. And another time which divorce is disliked and which there's no direct reason for it. Especially if they have children. Okay? If they're living together, everything's peaceful, everything's fine, alhamdulillah, it's no reason to divorce it. It's unnecessary. Because it's going to split up the children. It is going to cause malice and hatred between his family and her family, in-laws, father-in-law, mother-in-law, okay? It's just going to cause destruction, and it's unnecessary. So therefore it is disliked, and there are specific texts in the sunnah that the shaitan is pleased with divorce. The shaitan is pleased with divorce, and it's something that he loves, and it's something that he is fond of. So therefore divorce without a reason is disliked. That's the least we can say about it. As for the hadith that says, Inna abghad al-halali ilallahi at-talaq, that the hadith of Ibn Umar, that's collected by Imam Abu Dawud and others, the most hated lawful thing to Allah is divorce. The last hadith is inauthentic and is not a correct sound hadith from the basis of the science of hadith. It is weak, okay, and also of its meaning. There's nothing that Allah Azza wa Jalla makes permissible that He hates, that is disliked. Okay, that's a very famous, commonly mentioned hadith, but it's not authentic. The Prophet ﷺ did not say those words, and Allah knows best. Moving on. Ibn Sa'di, rahimahullah ta'ala, he says, وَطَلَاقُهُنَّ لِعِدَّتِهِنَّ فَسَّرُهُ حديث ابن عمر حيث طلق زوجته وهي حائض. He says, in divorcing women or at the proper time or at the proper iddah has been explained by the narration of Ibn Umar. That Ibn Umar radiallahu anhu, he divorced his wife and she was on her mens. Okay, she was in her menstrual cycle and he divorced her. Ibn Sa'di says, فسأل عمر رضي الله عنه رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم عن ذلك فقال مره فليراجعها ثم ليتركها حتى تطهر ثم تحيض ثم تطهر ثم إن شاء أمسك بعد وإن شاء طلق قبل أن يمس فتلك العدة التي أمر الله أن تطلق لها النساء متفق عليه وفي رواية مره فليراجعها ثم ليطلقها طاهرا أو حاملا. The hadith says that Umar radiallahu anhu, the son of Ibn Umar, when he heard about what his son did, he went to the Prophet ﷺ and he asked him about his son's action. The Messenger of Allah ﷺ says, Murhu, command your son, tell him, go tell your son, فَلْيُرَاجِعْهَا, let him take her back. So we benefit firstly is that if a man divorces his wife, the talaq of bid'ah, the first step is what? What is the first thing he should do?
Take his wife back.
Take his wife back. And it shows us the mistake of many people. Even if the talaq of bid'ah does count, if you consider it to count, if you take that opinion that it does count, the first step is what? To take her back.
Yep.
Then, if you want to divorce her, again, but the first thing you should do is to do what?
Take her back.
Now, the scholars, they did differ on, is it obligatory for him to take her back? Or is it just recommended? There are two main opinions that we're not going to mention in any detail right now. The hadith then says, Murru فَلْيُرَاجِعْهَا. He says, take her, he says, command your son to take her back. ثُمَّ لِيَتْرُكْهَا حَتَّى تَطْهُرْ. He said, then leave her be until she becomes pure. In other words, take her back and let her finish her menstrual cycle. Once her menstrual cycle is finished, then there's a third step. And it says here, ثُمَّ تَحِيض. Then let her get on another mens. Okay? ثُمَّ تَطْهُرْ. Then go in another pure state. Then go what? In another pure state. He then says, ثُمَّ إِنْ شَاءَ أَمْسَكَ بَعْدُ. He says, after that happens, then he has the option. He can either keep her, he says, وَإِنْ شَاءَ طَلَّقَ قَبْلَ أَنْ يَمَسْ, or divorce her before he has sexual intercourse with her another time. So he has two options. The first thing is to take her back. A man divorces his wife and she's mensing. He takes her back. She is to leave that menstrual cycle. Now she's in a pure state. Finish that pure state, go to another mens. Then, now it's all open now. He can either divorce her properly or he can hold her. He then says, فَتِلْكَ الْعِدَّةُ الَّتِي أَمَرَ اللَّهُ أَن تُطَلَّقَ لَهَا النِّسَاء. The hadith says, this is the iddah. This is the proper way of divorcing women that Allah commanded in Surah At-Talaq, Surah 65. This is the proper way of pronouncing talaq. Now, before we stop, Abu Bakr, we can see here how many people are far from this hadith. Don't even have a clue about it, never even heard about it. Whether it's their fault, whether it's the teacher's fault for not explaining it, but this is the proper talaq. Okay? If a man divorces his wife and she's mensing, this is the proper way of doing it. Okay? Ibn Sa'di, he then says, it states in another narration, Murhu فَلْيُرَاجِعَهَا. Tell your son to take her back. ثُمَّ لِيُطَلِقَهَا طَاهِرًا أَوْ حَامِلًا. He should then divorce her in a state that she's not mensing, or she's pregnant. Or she's what?
Pregnant.
Or she's pregnant. He says here, وَهَذَا دَلِيلٌ عَلَى أَنَّهُ لَا يَحِلُّ لَهُ أَن يُطَلِقَهَا وَهِيَ حَائِضٌ. Ibn Sa'di, rahimahullah, the author of the book, he says this is a proof that it is impermissible for him to divorce his wife while she's mensing. It is what? Impermissible. Does it count? Is it valid? Is it invalid? That's a secondary issue, Qadir. But what it proves is that it's what? It's haram. He can't do it. If the man divorces his wife on a menstrual cycle, then he has got sin from Allah. He's gained sin from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. أو في طهر وطئ فيه. Another issue is for him to divorce her after he had intercourse with her. A woman in Islam has two states, pure or impure. When she's pure, she's either not mensing or she's pregnant. When she's impure, then she's mensing. So we already explained, if a man divorces his wife while she's mensing, the marriage is what?
Not permissible. It's not correct.
Haram. We did, okay, valid and invalid, we didn't say that, but it's at least haram. Secondly, she's not mensing. He has intercourse with her. And 2 hours later, they get into a fight, they get into an argument. She says something to him, he said, and so on. You're divorced. That divorce is also what? Impermissible. Or 2 days later, she didn't go back to her mints. He doesn't know whether she's pregnant or not. The divorce is also what? Impermissible. As for if she was pregnant, if she was 5 months pregnant, regardless whether he had intercourse with her or not, but she's clearly pregnant, he can what? He can divorce her. He can divorce his wife. He can have intercourse with her. Let's say she's 2 months pregnant. Okay, her belly is not that big yet. Big or small, yani. She's pregnant. He has intercourse with her. They get into a fight. She disobeys him. She disrespects him. She says something sarcastic, so on and so forth. It is also permissible for him to do it. It's permissible to do what?
It's permissible to divorce her.
It's permissible to divorce her, even though she's in a what state?
She's pregnant.
She's in a pure state.
A pure state.
Even though she's in a pure state. Right?
No.
So therefore, if she's mincing, then the divorce is haram. If she's in a pure state and he has sex with her, the divorce is haram. If she's in a pure state and he did not have sex with her, then it is halal. If she's pregnant and he had sex with her or intercourse with her, then the divorce is halal. It's permissible. Everybody got this?
No.
Ibn Sa'di, rahimahullah ta'ala, he then says, وَيَقَعُ الطَّلَاقُ بِكُلِّ لَفْظٍ دَلَّ عَلَيْهِ مِنْ صَرِيحٍ لَا يُفْهَمُ مِنْهُ سِوَى الطَّلَاقِ كَلَفْظِ الطَّلَاقِ وَمَا تَصَرَّفَ مِنْهُ وَمَا كَانَ مِثْلُ أو كناية وكناية إذا نوى بها الطلاق أو دلت القرينة على ذلك. Ibn Sa'di then says, now he says divorce takes place with any statement, any way that you say it. Okay? Anything that you say and it's clear and it's understood that you intended to divorce. Whether it's the actual term talaq or anything that is derived from the term talaq. Let's break this down now without going too deep. In Islam, we have 2 types of divorce. With regards to uttering divorce, pronouncing divorce, verbally, there are 2 types. We have sarih and we have kinaya. We have a direct talaq, sarih, frank, I divorce you. Whether it's in English or in Arabic. And then we have the divorce in which the man doesn't use those words, but he intends it. And he said something that's not direct. And if it wasn't for the intention, it wouldn't be divorce. Okay. A man says, Khalas, you're divorced. That's called what? That's sarih. He said, I was joking. I didn't mean that. We said the divorce counts. Even if he was joking. I was angry. We said if he wasn't extremely angry, in which he was almost crazy, as we say, blacking out, then the divorce what? It counts. It counts. No matter what his intention was, if he said those words, his wife is divorced. Because it is a sarih, lafaz sarih. It's a direct statement of divorce. Okay? Or anything that is taken from the word divorce. We're divorced. I have pronounced divorce. You have been divorced. Anything in which the term talaq is mentioned, yaqa. In Arabic, yani we say, talaqtuki. Anti taliq. Ana mutalliq. Ana qultu talaq. I said talaq. You're mutallaqa. You're anti taliq. Anything that's derived from that word, talaq, is called lafz sarih. And then we have that which is called kinaya, an indirect expression, in which he says, it's over. It's over. We're done. Okay? Go back to your father's house. I'm finished with you. That's not necessarily divorce. But if he intended in his heart that it's divorce, and he said an indirect expression, it is also divorce. Also divorce. Okay? It's also divorce. So, a woman, she says, my husband, he told me, get out, go home, we're done, that's it, class. I'm done with you. She goes home, she cries, she goes to her guardian, her father, her brother, whatever they call the student of knowledge in the Islamic Dawah Center. My husband says we're done in my divorce. What's the first thing that that student or that imam should do?
Call the brother first and ask him
his intention. I said, what did you mean by that? I was angry. She was getting on my nerves. She picked up this. She threatened to hit me. She said she was going to do this. She blah, 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 blah. Whatever the people say. Okay? I really didn't mean to divorce her. We say that there's no divorce. Now, if he was lying, that's between him and Allah. But if he was honest, I didn't mean to divorce her. He didn't have the intention.
He just wanted to get away from me.
The divorce does not count. Why? Because it is kinaya. It is indirect expression. And it wasn't sarih. And this is very important to understand the 2 differences. And a lot of people, if not most of the people, they mix the 2. And they confuse the 2. And they don't understand how to make a difference between the 2. Okay? Direct and indirect. Okay?
Yeah.
So therefore, anything that is of direct, directly derived from the word divorced, yaqa, it counts. Playing, joking, laughing, this and that, it counts. You meant it, you did mean it, you knew how serious it was or not, khalas. One divorce, 3 divorces, all be mentioned later on. Al-Muhim, a divorce has taken place. And the second one is the indirect expression in which a person needs the intention, as Ibn Sa'di rahimahullah ta'ala mentioned. I want to stop here, whereas we took a lot of information. Hopefully, in the next class we'll continue. Bidnillah subhanahu wa ta'ala, Allah knows best. May Allah grant us all beneficial knowledge and righteous action, and help and aid the people from a problem that they suffer from. We all suffer from, and that's a problem of divorce. Divorce is very widespread, very, very widespread among many Muslims and not Muslims. ولا حول ولا قوة إلا بالله والله أعلم. سبحان ربك رب العزة عما يصفون. سلام على المرسلين والحمد لله رب العالمين. Any questions before we stop?
Yeah, I have one question. When the husband say to the wife, if you do this again, you will be divorced.
Try it.
If you do this again, you will be divorced. And she do it again. She does the same thing like she told.
The question says, if a husband tells his wife that if she does a certain act or goes to a certain place or makes a certain statement or whatever, and she does it again, does the divorce count? We say that yes, the divorce counts, and this is going to be explained later on in the matan. And this is, that was the fuqaha called At-Talaq al-Mu'allaq. At-Talaq al-Mu'allaq. The talaq that is based off of a stipulation, a condition. If this happens, then talaq happens. Whenever that thing happens, and he was of age, he was sane, that's what he intended, the divorce takes place. Clear? As for if the husband really didn't mean that, but he only meant to, he swore, he says, Wallahi, if you do this, then kada wa kada, then that's a different issue. But if he just says, you're divorced, if this takes place, then that thing happens. That's called talaq al-mu'allaq. And that is the opposite of that which we call At-Talaq al-Munjaz. At-Talaq al-Munjaz is the instant talaq. Once you're divorced right now. And divorce will also take place in the future. When this date comes, if you go outside, that happens, divorce. That's also a type of divorce which is going to be explained later on in the book. Bidnillah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Wallahu a'lam. Any more questions before we stop? Alhamdulillah rabbil alameen.
Allah.